I think I overlooked a DM. I just realized when I was looking back at it today, I was like, oh my God, I never responded. And it was like 2023. You're right. Like, what a jerk. But like I explained, and we can talk about later, I think that was like the middle of that whole thing with my leg. And, I was like, not in a, you wouldn't have wanted me on the show. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's what it's all about. And I was saying to Brandy Roderick the other day, 75% now of the Baywatch cast. So we'll start there with your upbringing and how you got into that. But I think there's only two people out of Baywatch I've not met, and I know everybody else. So welcome to the show 2 years later, mate.
Oh my God, that's amazing. You got everybody, really?
Quite literally, it's like I was saying a little bit earlier, alluding to I went to America to take my chance, reached out to Jeremy Jackson, caught up, been mates now for 7 odd years. That guy is just incredible what he's gone through, and he just opened up to me. And like I said to you, I could have been paparazzi, I could have been anyone. And it was just like, no, you're not. I know there's something different about you. And then it was like Erica, Gina Lee Nolan, Angelica Bridges, Brandy Roderick. I think there's only David and Pamela. And
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. At least you're getting me now. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jeremy's like, God, what he's done with his life, and just when his energy now, it's like it's infectious, he's grown. Like, I mean, it's incredible. What a like just success story, turnaround story, from the lowest low to, being just so comfortable in his own skin now,
Yeah,
which is
he's an incredible guy. But alluding to you, mate, tell me how you got started in this crazy world of entertainment. What was it that even drew you to it? Because I know all the stuff with your environmentalism and
yeah. I mean, it really was kind of it is super random. I mean, when we were younger, my brother and I and like two of my buddies, we were kind of obsessed with like making our own movies, like home movie videos, and we'd like so we'd do these like Miami Vice kind of knockoffs. Like my parents left for the weekend and would take my dad's old like VHS camera and like we would write up these scripts and shoot these things. And like obviously there was no music sync back then, or like so like the lights would be off and then someone in the dark would hit play on like the remember like the what do you call them, like the boom box things we had, like the
yeah,
somebody that'd be
multi-layered ones.
like the intro for the music. And because you can only record like onto the VHS. Anyway, I mean, I was, I just I had a passion for it. And I ended up I went to college. I played football and lacrosse all the way through high school, college, and then so it wasn't a chance to dabble in theater. Like our football, even though it was Division III, I went to Bates College up in Maine. We started 2 weeks before everybody in August, and we didn't finish till like right before Thanksgiving, and then lacrosse would start up right after New Year's. So like you go from kind of one sport to the next, full commitment. Practices 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and then games Saturdays. And but afterwards, I think what really kind of defined a lot of it and me taking the chances. I went on a program called Semester at Sea when I was in college. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but it's basically where you go on. It's on a converted. It's basically a cruise ship that's converted into a kind of, they call it like a floating university. So it's like, but this was and back when I did it, it was like I just remember this one guy. I didn't know him that well. There was only one guy from my college who went on the program, and for some reason, he like picked me out, and he's like, David, I'm telling you, I can tell what kind of guy you are. You have to go on this thing. It'll blow your mind." And like literally, it was 3-1 girls to guys. The majority of the girls were all from like SC, Arizona State, Boulder, like the most. It was ridiculous. And I'm coming from like this part of Maine, and like a school in like Maine where there's not a lot to look at.
Yeah,
So I'm like, but the ship, we left from the Bahamas, and it focused on, and this is in the spring of '89. Yeah, my junior year. I skipped lacrosse that year and did this, but we focused on third world countries and or second, like it wasn't like we're going to Dubai or anything like. We went to Spain, we went to Yugoslavia when it was still Yugoslavia, and like we went to Istanbul, we went up to the Black Sea, and then so the ship would land in these places, and you could either go out as like with other but everybody on that programs, the students were all kind of wired the same way. They had signed up for this thing because they wanted to see the world and like literally just go adventuring. Because all you had to do is you could either do something that was affiliated like with the school, and sometimes we would do that like a tour that would take the group of us, like because we flew to Moscow from Odessa and stayed there for a few days. And we were in China and we did something similar where we flew and stayed. And you kind of do that as a group. But other times, like in Malaysia or a lot of the countries in Spain, like as soon as the boat lands, you just go with your best buddies and would go rent a car, would have a plan, and just disappear for like 3 days. And the only rule is you have to be back like 2 hours before they make the boat does the
When
signal. Um, and I mean, we went to Yugoslavia. We went after Russia. We came down the Suez Canal. They let you off. We went to the pyramids. We actually back then you could climb there, like you could bribe the guards. The guards have like AK-47s, and this legend of all you have to do is bring a stack of Playboy magazines and you hand it to them. They're like, go for it. I mean, we would climb the largest pyramid at like 5 in the morning, watch the sunrise. It was insane, and crossed the Indian Ocean. Went to where did we land? Not Madras. I don't know, but we ended up going up to like the Taj Mahal, and then through Malaysia, Singapore, China, Japan, Taiwan, and then from there in Taiwan it ended. And then you fly home, but when I just remember getting home and I'm back in Massachusetts and I'm like this, and I had another year of school to do, but I was just like my mind was just like wow, like blown. Like I knew for certain I could never do a job in an office. And I think this weird like panic about like what can I do like that's gonna fulfill what I just saw and like satiate that kind of I wanted to see and do everything and I just kind of I after I graduated I worked for a congressman for a little bit down in DC, and not for any political reasons but because he was a chairman of a subcommittee on wildlife and fisheries as an environmental thing, and then I was, I ended up working for my brother-in-law, like full-time construction again back in Massachusetts, like applying, and I was going to apply to grad school. And at the same time, I started modeling. Like I saw they were like looking for athletic models, like dudes who are fit to come in. And I went and met this modeling agency. It just kind of like it snowballed. I ended up booking like a Reebok campaign really quickly. They were like, Jesus, this doesn't happen. And then they started sending me on commercials, and I went to this famous casting office in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that's still there now. And I remember like that it was for like a Miller Lite commercial, and it was like a national campaign, and it was like literally the first time I'd done a commercial audition, and I booked it, and they were like, the same thing. The reaction was like, you should start studying because like that never and nobody ever books like a national commercial, like never walked in like or studied or so then I started studying. I started studying at college in Pickman, and I just kind of pursued it on the side. I pursued it in New York City some, and then that just didn't fit that well. And I had been to Southern California before. I'd always wanted to live here for a stint in my life. I knew that. And I basically after I had set myself up remotely, just by sending all my materials. I was at an agency that had a modeling division, a commercial, and also a small theatrical. Um, and basically, my parents were like, "All right, if this is really what you're gonna do," and I drove across the country by myself and got here, and I literally got here like Saturday, January 14th, and I think the January 16th, 1994 was like my birthday or the day after or before, whatever. It was the Northridge earthquake. And it was like, I mean, it was just like welcome, like so everything I was like,
welcome to LA.
stopped, like, and a buddy of mine worked for FEMA, and he was out here, and he was like, he knew I had a construction background. He's like, there was nothing to do work wise, like as an actor, because the city was just, crumbled. And he's like, man, do you want to inspect chimneys? You just take this little iPad, you drive around Northridge, and you look at their chimney, and you determine whether or not it's safe, or they need, like, it needs to be refitted or whatever. And so I did that for probably 6 months. Um, and then right after that, I moved into a new place over in Brentwood. And when I was walking, I knew one thing: like, you got to get a job. You got to pay for, like, my parents were not going to support this dream, like, to go pursue this. And so many of my buddies just did not. They got the lamest job, like food delivery, making like $8 an hour with tips, like for a few hours a night. I'm like, you have all this time, like, go do a gig, at least become a bartender and, like, make some real money. Like, but and that was always like and I've always said that to other people who are trying to, like, make it out here. Like, you got to have something where you're earning cash, because you cannot count on anything on this business. And so I'm moving into this kind of, it was Brentwood, California, which, I don't know, I'm sure you've been there. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? But we happen to be on the kind of the edge over next to the VA. And this building it was pretty, I mean, it's 2-story. It looked like, I don't know, out of a porn movie, this big of building. But I'm walking, moving my stuff in, and this guy's renovating it. And I just said to him, I'm like, hey, man, I'm really good with a hammer if you ever need help. And he's like, yeah, right, whatever. And then the next morning, like 7 a.m., he knocks on my door. He's like, do you want to go to work? I'm like, yeah, dude. I literally, that right away, just changed the clothes. He gave me a work belt, and I worked for him, and he would let me go on auditions like during the day. He's just like, I get it. I did, just be responsible with your time and how many hours you're on the site. And he loved having me because I was good at what I did. And, so I'd be like, covered in just whatever. I'd be outside of some audition, just pouring water, like doing, like, changing, and then go do the audition and sprint back to work. Um, and then soon, and then I was studying at night, in an acting class. But I had like, so many people have, like, someone who's been in the business, and there's, or some alumni or something. I had, like, zero connections. I mean, I'd set myself up with that agency. That was all me. And then the only help I had was a colleague of my dad's brother was teaching acting in the Valley, and I started just taking his classes initially. And eventually, like, that, I discovered, it was pretty remedial kind of acting class, and I found a better coach and started working with him. And then literally the audition for Baywatch came up, and I was like, wow, that's kind of huge. It's like, the new young lead. And but this little small agency I was with got it for me, and I worked on it with my coach for, like, over and over, and went through the whole process. And the good thing is I had an ocean background. I used to I race sail ever since we were like 5. My mom grew up on the Cape in Massachusetts. She grew up sailing, and she was like, you guys are gonna be like, you're gonna be racing like sailors. Like, that was your, like, she jammed it on us. Like, it'd be blowing like 18 knots, and from where we lived, it was like we were on a harbor, but you had to sail to get to the race. So, like, we couldn't walk down the dock. And I just remember it'd be like my sister and I in this boat, and it'd be like blowing, like, I don't know, 15 knots, and, like, the boat's like flipping, and we're like super early in the morning, because all based on the tide, what time this race starts. And she's like, we're like, well, then you can't do it. And she's like, you go down there, you sail in that race, you finish that race, and then you sail home. And if you don't, like, it's, so, it was, and then I ended up, like, going to the Junior Olympics and windsurf racing. I was a head sailing instructor. I knew how to drive boats. We used to lobster. I was already a certified scuba diver. So I had all this water knowledge by the time I got to Baywatch. And, part of the audition was a swim test. And luckily I was on a swim team, because the character, I'm sure you've seen some of the show, but Cody was, like, portraying an Olympic hopeful. And, you can't really fake. You can't learn how to portray an Olympic swimmer in, like, 2 months. It takes years of swimming in order to, like, just even from freestyle, like, it takes a long time. And luckily I'd been doing it a long time. But the kicker was like, so I had all that water and ocean experience already. I was certified for CPR because I was teaching sailing, and but when I the very first audition, I walked in the room, and they've been seeing people guys forever, just trying to, and they could not find the guy, the two casting directors. And I remember like vividly to this day, I walk in, their heads were down. There were two women, Susie and Fern, and they looked beaten. And like they're like, hey, and then they look up and they're like, holy shit. They're like, holy shit, you're the guy. You're the guy we've been looking for. Like, we hope you can act, because what the writer and the writer who wrote the character, basically created the character, was the Doug Schwartz, who's one of the executives. His wife created this character from the Midwest and the whole backstory. And, I visually fit it to a T, and then I had to prove it, over and over in audition, and audition in front of all the executives with Hasselhoff, and Hasselhoff's just trying to like derail me in the audition. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? You're like, and they make me do it again. I'm like, this is so not right. But they had a lot riding on it. They were, the young lead was carrying the show in an extent. Like, it's after Hasselhoff, it's the next male in line, and it's got to tick all the boxes. And I'm like, even one of the executives, he brought me in at one point, and he just sat me down. He's like, David, this is a really big deal for us. Like, can you do this? Can you deliver? And I'm like, I will crush this role for you. And meanwhile, I'm shitting my pants. But just like, I was built for that show. You know what I mean? I worked really hard, because I realized like there were some things like that were really, like, the more fit you were as a male, like really quickly, I was like, I stood out. The fans reacted positively. The writers, when they saw my ocean skills, like outside of the lifeguarding stuff that I had to learn with, like Mike Newman taught me all the, basically entries and rescues, and how, like, that was stuff I all had to learn. But because I had the ability to, I knew how to drive wave runners, the big speedboats, and not many people could drive those things, or drive, like, if they had a rescue, you know, you can't, like, they just wouldn't let, like, certain people drive those things into like a rescue, because a lot of times they want you to come right up to the camera, and or we're driving the speedboat into Venice Pier, like we're in really close, and like you got to kind of, the thing had a horrible turn radius, but they would only let me and Mike Newman, who was like the real lifeguard, like drive the boat during those rescues. And the wave runners, the same thing, man. Like, they'd have the sticks, would shoot it off a jetty, cameras in the water. They'd want you to come in and kind of spin it, install it, and then deliver your dialogue off camera, and then like blast out. And that's that. I mean, I remember that I give shit. I just had dinner with Michael Bergen, and I'm like, he would be just launching the thing into the rocks. Like, the crew would be like, dude, whoa, this is not safe. We can't have doing this. Like, so I mean, I just, and I worked really hard. I would study with my coach every night for the next day. I'd go to the gym every night, and it was like just over and over and over and repeat. And they only guaranteed me, when I got the phone call, it was like, you got the job, but they said, but here's the deal: you're kind of on a probation where we're guaranteeing you 8 episodes out of 22, but if we like you, you could do 22 out of 22. So, and I was like, oh, awesome. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what? But I was, I think the only time I was like really like, the first few hours of being on the show was like, because I'm stepping into something that's already skyrocketing. It's a well-oiled machine, and yeah, I was definitely like shitting my pants in the beginning. That's fine. And then I quickly found my groove, and then just like went, just really kind of like I was made for the show, and they loved everything I was doing, and they ended up doing like 18 out of 22 the first year, and they let me pick. Halfway through the season, they're like, do you want Yasmin or Pamela to be your love interest on the show? And I was like, you guys are seriously giving me that often? I mean, that choice. And I was like, and I loved Yasmin because but Pam and I also had this great, like, we just had this great back and forth chemistry. We were both kind of self-deprecating, and didn't take ourselves or any of it too seriously. Like she didn't back then. And I mean, I took the work seriously, but yeah, I didn't think I was, there were other people whose egos were just ridiculous, like, and I'm like, man, I don't know, I just didn't, I don't know. I won't say anymore. But anyway, her and I just started. So I was like Pam, definitely, and we had great. All our stuff together was amazing. It was like we had so much fun shooting our scenes, and then it just went from there, man. I just dug in. I found a better coach after or during one of the hiatuses. This woman Leslie Kahn, who's become like she's like a guru now out here. So like everybody trying goes through her schooling, but she just taught like a really good foundation of how you approach work, and she was like just tough on you, really tough, and which I needed. It was good. And then I just kept it going, man. I think like I'm outside of Pam, I'm the only one who's like still working. Like everybody, I mean, Jason's trying to work, I think, and Alexander's taking care of her mom. But in terms of like, I think this year, or the past 14 months, I've done like 8 movies. Like I've had the biggest string of like, which is a lot in like 14 months, if you think about it. And for also the business not being that great, in terms of the, runaway productions and everything shooting somewhere else. And they're high, everything is self-tape now. It's a weird, you used to be able to go in the room and basically you charm people, or you get feedback or you get adjustments, and now it's you get no feedback, you have no idea that. And when they give you an audition, it's like age 40 to 54, any ethnicity, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wait, because I will never, like, it takes a couple days to prepare for an audition, like, because you're putting yourself out there, and if you suck at the level I'm at, I've been doing it for so long. If someone sees it, that's like important, and they're like, wow, what happened? I thought that kid was kind of like coming along, and you don't put the time in. It just takes one person, and you can really mess things up. So even my managers and agents, they'll try and send me stuff the night before, and unless it's like an absolute, I'm like, don't even bother sending it, because I'm not going in. I need like 2 days for it to sink in. I'm not risking what I put the work in every single time. But the bummer is how broad they are now, because of it's every ethnicity, it's every this, it's every that. The age is all over the place. So it just feels like you're one of 1,000 when you get an audition. It's like, and you don't get any kind of feedback, so you have no idea where it ends up.
Do you?
So
Oh, sorry.
no, that's about it. Yeah, it's strange.
I was just going to say, like, you mentioned like that thing between you and Pam, just like the camaraderie thing. The only reason I bring that up is, do you think, because you said you was made for the show, ideally, do you think that that camaraderie also helped you both deal, and not just you two, but the rest of the cast? I know everyone's dealt with it differently, and ironically, I met Jason several years ago. He came back to Sydney, and I reached out to him. This is the thing with me: roll your sleeves up, reach out to people. You never know. And we did a shoot. We did a shoot in the local area where I am, and I've got a picture when my kid was like, I think he was like 2 years old, and now Jason's back and is doing his stuff. But he's a great guy as well. But do you think that that helped you manage how big that show actually went? Because you was made for the show, but was you made for fame? Because that level of fame was like out of this bloody world, mate.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I think was the real, being from where New England, like I don't know if like I just where I'm from, it's like this, like people just like tell you like they kind of they won't tell, they'll just tell it like it is. They'll tell it straight to your face, which is
Bit
like
like Yorkshire.
shocking and like also refreshing, because they're not gonna bullshit you and lie, or like lead you down a path of like, hey, I have this movie and I think you're right for this role. It's just like people in New England are more just like straight, like this, and I think growing up there and having parents that like we were. I mean, I had a job from as soon as I was tall enough to push the lawnmower. I was mowing people's lawns for money, and I never did not have a job that like to bring in money. Like it was just work ethic was a thing, and it's paid off because I mean I can outwork so many like almost anybody I you put up against me, dude. I just crush people, and that's all for my parents. And I think having that kind of a background where you earned your own money, like earned money, you worked no matter what. When it came even I mean, trust me, I had some fun with it, but it wasn't like I just didn't buy. I didn't buy into it. I didn't buy into like the fame part of it. I don't know why. It just seemed so. I saw the people that did, and I saw how it backfired really quickly. And I give my younger self a lot of credit for not becoming. Even my buddies that I played football with, like I was, we all lived together in this house. Like there's 32 of us, 28 were on the football team. The other four played baseball, and they were all like, "Oh my God, Chokachi's on Baywatch. He's gonna change. He's gonna become this Hollywood asshole." And then they saw me like a year later after the first season, and are like, "Oh my God, dude, you're actually the exact same guy. Like that's incredible. You didn't change at all." And I never have. I've always remained true to myself, and I yeah, I saw a lot of traps. I mean, some you fall victim to, you don't see them coming. But in terms of like the ego and the game and being feeling like you're better than someone else, I just never did that, man. I'm always like I'm as good as the guy who's cooking the food like on the set. Like, I'm no more important than that guy. That's just the thing. My upbringing, basically.
I think that's vital. I was going to go straight into because obviously after that show finished and you've gone on producing, you've gone everything else. We had a talk before, obviously the podcast, and you spoke about the dark time that you went through. Do
Yeah.
you mind going into that? Because I think that's always important to really get people to understand how you got through those dark periods.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, like I didn't really know that was the focus until I started looking your stuff up and I followed your podcast and I was like, oh wow, I gotta tell them about like what I went through. And I don't I know people, I have friends going through much worse. I have people, if you start living long enough, people start getting sick and they just start dying or shit happens. Like it's just the way it is. And so, but basically I ruptured my Achilles in August of 21 on a movie set back in Connecticut. And it was just, it was 1 in the morning. It was super humid. I'm playing a cop. The whole movie was talking, except 1/8 of a page was me chasing a dude, like I was telling you. And we shot it once, and they're like, "Cool, let's go home. Everybody's exhausted. It's super hot in here." And then it wasn't even the director, but someone's like, "Ah, we're set up for it. Let's do it one more time." All I have to, I'm walking up, I'm kind of looking down at my phone, and then I see the guy, and I'm like, yeah, I yell at him, stop it, but I push off and like go to sprint. And the second time I did it, when I went to sprint, like I just felt like my whole heel shred. And because I had torn my left one and in between seasons of Baywatch, I knew that I knew what it was. And they were trying to tell me like, oh no, you probably just sprained your ankle. And I'm like, man, it's like the most disgusting feeling. I've broken my femur. That was pretty bad, but rupturing your Achilles is like for a few seconds. It's not that painful. It's just there's a tearing aspect that you actually are witnessing, and you're like, and I was hyper aware of what was happening because I had done my left, and I was just like, I could not believe what I had done, dude. I mean, I end up now I'm in that emergency room in Connecticut, and I'm trying to like get on a surgical schedule, and with Achilles, you have about like 14 days is a window from rupture to repair. And that may have changed a little bit now. Like they're improving the technique all the time, but in terms of you don't want to go much longer because things become harder to reconnect, and so that also means you got to find your doctor. You got to get on his surgical schedule. You have to have an MRI. You have to have a physical. All those things have to be done before, and then within a 14-day window. So I went with this guy, this surgeon, who he's a shoulder expert who did orthopedics. I couldn't find the guy who did my left one because he was that guy I did. My left one was like like I just a Jedi because there was only like an inch left on the heel. He did this technique. He was a trauma surgeon. It was a Sunday night. I was awake for that surgery, man. And but that thing was tight as could be. Never had a problem. This thing, surgeon does it. I go through the most, it's the most boring. So it's 6 weeks that you can't put any weight on it. So you're brushing your teeth and you can tap your toe down, but you cannot like if you slip like and pressure the ball of your foot, like it's just gonna pull apart and you're starting like it's really not a good idea. So you're hyper aware of all that stuff and you're just on the couch and then the physical therapy is just so it's mundane as can be, man. You're doing rubber bands and then heel like over and over balancing and then after a year I was fine mentally through that. I'm like, all right, but I kind of like started like noticing like something's not right. Like it's not my leg is not coming back like it should be. So after a year, I noticed like my foot was kind of like loose, like a little bit dangly almost in a sense. Like, and I asked the PT guy, and he didn't. He was like, he was. I knew he knew, but he was scared to tell me that you have an issue here. So I went and saw three specialists. This guy at UCLA was like, I don't want to go back in there, man. They call it like a revisionist surgery or going into someone else's work. He was like, I would just try and keep doing PT. The second guy, I think I told you, I just met this guy. He's like, he goes, he asked me a lot about my background, knew I was athletic and wanted to be back in the ocean, surfing and lifting and going to yoga. He's like, man, if you go through this, you're starting over at day one. You're looking at another 15 months. He goes, you will lose your fucking mind. And this is like a reputable older doctor. And he throws out the, you will lose your fucking mind. And basically that's what happened. The second time around, I never recovered physically my whole body or mind or spirit from the first one. And then I had the second one. I mean, I was positive for a while because I knew the surgeon even said, man, he took out an inch and an eighth of tendon. Like that's how the error was so great that the surgeon who did the corrective one, he was just like dumbfounded. He was like, I don't know how this guy did that. Like it was so far off. And that's the only mistake you can make in Achilles repair is not making it tight enough. And that's what this guy did. And to this day, I don't know why he didn't say there's 5 specialists within 5 miles of here because he was a friend of friends of ours, like a secondary friend of their family, like and like he easily could have just said, you know what, I'll jump you the line, I'll pass him all the physical stuff, I'll get you in, go have this guy do it, and instead he took it on. Um, and then I'm going through the second round at 15 months. So now I'm into 2 years of this whole thing, or 2.5 years. And I just feel myself going into like losing who I was. Like my zest for life was gone. This is like everything was just started going down, like mentally. I felt like I just the like when you're on crutches, also like you can't even carry a coffee. Like you're fucking useless. And granted, I know there's a million things that are worse, but this was my experience, and I know, it's just I end up like meeting my wife's like, you got to get help. You're just like, what's going on? And I'm like, I just don't like. I felt like there was no end in sight. It's a long time, man. 2.5 years of recovery, of trying to recover. It's brutal. And then because my body, my entire life, ever since I was like young, was playing sports or like all the way through it. I never stopped. And then exercise is always a huge part of my life, and surfing and being in nature and community around friends. And all of a sudden, like all that is stripped away, and I couldn't work as an actor. I just felt like and it wasn't even like it wasn't like an overnight switch. It was almost like sinking in quicksand. And then I just remember being at a point where I was scared to death that because I even so I met with a psychiatrist. He starts putting me on medications. Those things made me worse. Like I was like worse, and he'd keep saying, "Well, if you're not getting better, let's try this, or let's add more, like take more, or increase the dosage." And I know they're good for some people, but they didn't work for me at all, man. And I just found myself like now a zombie, actually, like zero, like no nothing going on. And I remember even like my manager like found like I was starting to like walk without a limp, and but I was like inside, I was just dead. I was like there was like, and I just remember day after day like literally wishing, like trying to create a time machine in my head, like this cannot be my life, and like what has happened, and being just sad. And then also like I would have moments of like scared to death that like how will I ever find my way back? Because when you if you feel like you've lost yourself, like your zest for life, that's a strange feeling. Like it, because I've always been fired up. I'm like the one who's like, let's go night surfing, let's go. I'm dancing with my dogs. I'm dancing with my daughter on the table, like crazy, but good, like crazy, good crazy. You know what I mean? And like all of that was gone. Everything. Like I had no interest in anything. I just think I couldn't even read anymore. Like I was like, and that was going on for a while, and then I was just basically it was kind of just fortunate. About 3 years in, we because we would always come out to Malibu for the summer. We rent a place out here year round, but we had switched from a guest house to like a single family ranch house. So we had it was like this big backyard, ton of light exposure. And just prior to that, I started ice plunging and sauna. And like I would do it to like the torturous amount of time. Like my wife's like, you're in there for 10 minutes at 41 degrees. You're going to fucking kill yourself. Like, but I was like, that I remember that was the first time I felt like a spark inside me, like something like reignited when I kept doing, like after repetitive, I do it 3 times a day religiously. And then as soon as we got out here, I was like, we have to like get a setup right away. Like I can't go without it, or I'm driving back into town every day to go do it because I know I knew something was there. Like, and it's really proven now. Like if you look at like the benefits of cold exposure and then sauna in general, it's like it triggers all kinds of great positive brain chemicals. It's a good stressor. And so when you do it and you're consistent with it, it can have like a real positive impact. And so we move into this place we're at now, and we have huge vegetable beds. And then I just started like digging deep into like Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you know him, but you know there's a million biohacks of like how to pull yourself out of a dark place. And I just started doing exactly what he was recommending. I got off all that the medication. I was like, I told that psychiatrist, like, I'm like, I kind of wanted to go off on him, but I just didn't because, again, maybe in another world he would have been helping someone, but I just think the way he was really liberal. It was like adding more or adding higher doses, and I'm like, you know, it just was hard. So I got off that stuff safely, and then I started just doing all these biohacks, like watching sunrise, and like this is like last June, and I probably saw 50 sunrises, like because where we are, like it's a kind of a private beach, and you key it down, and it's just this amazing surf spot. I mean, you can get to it from if you walk around, but because of certain easements to get to it, it's like the public can't walk down a set of stairs, and you have to live on a certain street to have the key. And but I'd take my dog down. I'd watch the sunrise. I'd be barefoot all the time. I would do breath work. I planted the garden. All of a sudden, I was around buddies, community. Like I didn't realize like how much isolation and being alone really like we are not meant to be alone like that for that long a period of time. It's really unhealthy. And then all those things, like I didn't eat a lot of sugar, but my daughter would be having like ice cream around, and once in a while I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna eat some of that. And so, but I cut out all sugar. I made myself exercise every day, even though my leg was not feeling great. I would do something, and then ice plunge, sauna, and like I just and like I told you, also is and then I would just keep digging, like finding other guys who were doing things in this world, and I kind of like I told you, obsessed with like the special operator world, like the just the ability, the mental, like their ability to do things under extreme stress and stay calm. Like I was always like I mean, I think it's one of the greatest qualities you can develop as a human being to be able to operate when you're being shot at, like and bullets are flying right by your face and you're not panicking. Like that's a and also to have that ability where they can just turn on the violence of action and then turn it off. And I had a couple of buddies in the SEALs, and I just said listen to a couple of podcasts. And this guy was one of the the best. He was like the apex predator Navy SEAL, and comes home and there for those guys there's no transition, there's no um okay, we're going to ease you out of this. And then especially if they've seen like the dudes in Fallujah in Iraq where that was a horrible, and then everybody who served in Afghanistan, like horrible stuff they witnessed. And the guy was just saying like I came home and I go from every night we're going out to killer capture or we're clearing minefields and I'm seeing buddies turn to mist in front of me, like just they're gone. They step on a mine, they're gone, their legs gone, like just trauma, trauma, trauma. And then they come home and they're supposed to be like snapping to life as a dad, beautiful kids, wife. And I was like joking with you about Costco, yeah. Like, and it's like this guy referenced, he's like, yeah, like I'm at the grocery store, I'm supposed to be buying diapers, and he just like he's losing it, and he ends up in like a really dark place. And what he discovered, and he calls it, he discovered like, okay, so how do I get out of this? How do I beat this? And it was just taking action, like always taking action. So the first thing you do in the morning is like get up and go for a walk. And or if like another, and he called these things, like call them stacking micro wins. So the easiest one, and like another guy, Jocko Willink, who's an ex-Navy SEAL, he talks about it too, like getting up really early. When you get up early, like for me, like I always wanted to be the dude who gets up at like 4 in the morning and just or 4:30. And I tried for a while. I tried to get movement, and it just was tough. And then after this, I just was like, and now I just would get up at 4:30, and they by this subconsciously you're sending a message to your mind and your body like nobody else is up. And I wouldn't get up and go lay on the couch and like watch TV. I'd go like I'd work on my leg. I'd do breath work. I'd take care of the dog, get things ready for the day, whatever the house, like be productive in that quiet time. And I love it. And so that's a micro win. That's an automatic boom. If you're up at 4 in the morning, the majority of the world is not up at 4 in the morning, and it triggers something inside of you. And my wife to this day is like, you went to bed at like whatever. If we go to some event and I get home at 1, I'm still like I cannot sleep in, and I feel like I have to. I mean, maybe I'd sleep till 5, but that's like the latest because I don't want to lose that feeling of like, okay, I'm still getting after it no matter what. And I would just stack micro wins day after day. And the next thing I knew, I was like, I had to do this movie in September, and I remember I told you this off the podcast. Like, I think it's some of the best work I've ever done in my career, and all of a sudden, I found myself like ricocheting off the bottom of the worst place I've ever been in my life, to feeling like, okay, I'm becoming like a savage right now. I'm getting out, like literally, and I would tell myself that, and I would just have these mantras, and I would just do it day after day after day, and I to this day I'm just like doing it every day. I'm up at either 4:23 is like this internal clock that just goes click. Like I don't even need an alarm. It's like, and I do these things, and I just for some reason they work. And all that suffering was weird, like because I was working with a spiritual counselor even during that time, and would do these Zoom sessions because he wasn't in LA, and he was amazing. And he had all kinds of like Buddhist wisdom and all these other things that he was feeding me. And he would always say, the most amount of spiritual growth will come from the most amount of pain or suffering you're in. And I was like, yeah, that's great, but that doesn't help me at all right now. Like
So
nothing, nothing was working. It was the most insane thing ever. And to move back out to Malibu, like the timing, and then just to happen to tap into like what these guys were teaching and really stick to it. Like I feel like honestly, I've found a version of myself. Like they always say, there, whether we know it or not, or you know it or not, there's a version, there's an operating system inside you that's higher than what you're doing right now.
yeah.
And it's just a matter of like you got to access it, you got to like tap into it, believe it's there, and you got to like find ways to hone it. And I feel like I found like an operating system like that where I did not know existed. Like I literally think it's like a mini superpower. Like that's the way I look at it. Like the suffering I went through, now I look at it as a blessing. Like even though it was 3 years of my life, it's in a weird way, it was the best thing that ever happened in terms of growth as a human being, as growth as an actor for sure. I mean, I had to the movie I'm talking about is called Married Alive, and I play a dad. It's just about me and my son. He's about to get married. We're going up to our cabin before his wedding for one last guy, like just and like the backstory. The guy is very traumatized. My character, like so in high school, my high school sweetheart's pregnant. Like she's about to like pop, and we're so in love with each other. We're like the parents. We're like we're getting married. As soon as we're out of high school, we're getting married. We're having this kid. We don't care what you tell us. Blah blah blah. This is just the backstory. But and then so in the backstory, my girlfriend and I were in the cafeteria with all the football players and everybody and cheerleaders, and in walk two guys with assault weapons, and there's a mass school shooting, like right, like happens in front of my character, and I cover her up. I get shot like 7 times in the back, and I think she's fine. I see blood under us, and she only lives long enough to give birth to my son in the hospital, and she passes away. And so I raise him, and we're kind of close in age because I'm only a senior in high school, like so um, this role called for like a lot of different things, and and I was able to just tap into stuff like so I in the story I never tell him really what happened to his mother. I always kept it away from him because I wanted to protect him, and then finally I'm like, okay, you're about to get married, I got to tell you what I saw that day. And I pull over and I start telling the story, and it's like, I mean, I went so deep, like emotionally, like the director and the DP, the director Bruce Reisman and the DP Ryan Brown. I both worked with on 2 other movies, and they were Ryan went up to Bruce afterwards. After one of the two, I did like so many times, but he was just like, "Holy shit!" He's like, "What happened to Chokachi?" He was like, "He was a solid actor before this movie, but he's like on a whole new level now. Like, there's something completely different about this guy." And the director knew what I had been through because he would call all the time. He's like, "How are you?" And I'm like, he's like, "Oh God, you're not even close to getting out of this thing, are you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And so he knew what had happened, what I'd been through. But I'm able to like now. I think I'm able like to command the. I feel so comfortable in front of the camera. I don't take shit from anybody. I like own my space. I can tap into like I have to fight this. There's a guy in my cabin, and I'm trying to. Our cell phones don't work. My son is pinned under a Jeep, and he's in a riverbed, and it starts and like his legs are shattered, and it starts raining. So like I'm on a timeline to get help, and I go to our cabin. Like I run to it. It's like a mile and a half from the accident, and I get in there, and there's a guy inside the cabin, and I have no idea who he was. And so we have this fight scene that we did all ourselves, no stunt doubles, and I had a lot of input because the coordinator was one of the actors, and I was like, man, I wrestled in high school. I had a really good wrestling career. I used to headbutt dudes just for fun, like in college. We had this headbutt. I'm like throwing some savage headbutts, and so we had this nasty fight, and the rage I was able to bring. I mean, I scared some people on that. Like that day, they were like, the director of this day is like, I've never seen that kind of rage in you, especially like, or any individual. He's like, I don't know where that came from. And so the character was really dynamic. He's doing anything to save his son. Um, and it's unbelievable. I haven't seen it all. I've seen pieces, but it's just there's no forced moments. It's very organic, and it was like everybody brought their A game. And I felt like I could just tap into anything all of a sudden. And it was the first time I was kind of tested after feeling like I was coming out of that shitstorm on a film set with a challenging role. And I was like, wow, I feel like I can go deeper, I can pull it back. What do you want me to do? And man, it's like a gift. Like, so weirdly, and I actually just listened to Jeremy Renner on Joe Rogan, and he talks about he had not, obviously that accident was he died a few times, but he talks about suffering, and he's like, there's something to be said about it, even though when you're in it just depends, I guess, on the level, but it's not fun. It's, and even though like my existence was, once my leg was kind of the second time, it was kind of healed and there was a lot of pain, physical pain, but the loss of who I was and the loss of my adventurous spirit, everything that was the most frightening thing I've ever experienced in my life, hands down. And not being able to, like, I mean, I would spend hours like, how can I get back to who I was? Like, I don't know how that's possible. Like, feeling how I felt, it was like so. I felt like I was stuck in one of those when they put you in a psych ward and they wrap you up in like one of those things. Like, I just felt like suffocated and I had zero to offer. And then to go from that to when I end up like where I'm at now, it's like, I mean, and people, even like parents at the school, they knew I was going through something, and then they saw me last summer, and they're like, "Holy shit, you're so different." You're like, "How did you? Like, what happened? We knew you were suffering, but we didn't want to say anything." And luckily, my family was great. My daughter's like tough. She knew I was like not me, but she didn't. She didn't like. She's super like independent, and she didn't let it affect her like negatively in any way. She just kind of wrote it out, and now she has a version of a dad that's like, it's like, I'm on like just firing on all cylinders, and I think that the thing is like, and nobody tells you this, there's no playbook, and it's going to be different for everybody depending on what you're going through. But I talked about it on a podcast, and there were some people that they DM me on Instagram like, I have a friend who's going through this, almost identical. They're stuck. They've tried everything. What would you suggest? I'm like, listen, I'm not professing to be any expert whatsoever, but I'm telling you what worked for me and what I believe is truly, and what I think Western medicine, they don't want us to know. They want to keep us on pills, like, and that's just the way it is. Like, they want to kill us. It's so fucked up, man. Like, I truly believe that now. Like,
All about
if
the money.
if there's no money in me walking or going down to the beach and watching sunrise, walking barefoot and doing contrast therapy and then getting better, like, this is, so all of a sudden it's like they're not going to talk about it. There's no playbook. And you would think as someone along the lines, it'd be someone who'd be like, hey man, you should try it. You love nature, you love surfing, trail running, you love being outdoors, you love dogs, like, try these things, these steps. But like, no, there's nobody along the line that came like professionally, definitely no one. And then just I think the fact that I did it on my own also, and was willing to get off that medication on my own, and like, feel the real pain of what it was, and then to just turn, like, I mean, a 180, and not go back to even where I was, but to go literally just be. I go after it all day long now. Like, my wife's like, "What is up with you? Like, you're not sleeping enough." I'm like, if I get up at 4, I'll go, and I'm like, right now I'm like in that garage like nonstop, but I'll go outside and lay in the sun for 30 minutes and like fall asleep, and then like little tiny power nap. Like, I'm not stupid. I know like 5 hours of sleep is not great, but I also feel like what I gained by getting up early subconsciously it's triggering something that I every time, man. And I'm just like, I know nobody else is awake. Like that, where we live is it's crickets. I'll go stand out in the middle of the road or lie in the middle of the street, like with the stars. There's coyotes, howling, owls. It's such a trip, man. And there's this one other trick. So if you're trying to get up early, I heard this and it really works. So there'd be times like if I'd worked out a ton or surfed for like 4 hours and I'm still trying to get up early and I'm like, oh my God, how am I? I'm stuck. I can't get out of bed. I can't get out of bed. This woman said, you count backwards from five, but you kind of count like you don't have to wake up your partner or whoever's in bed, but you just go five, four, three, two, one. But by counting backwards, it makes your brain kind of turn on,
Mm.
as opposed to if you counted one, two, three, four, five, you could still be asleep. But because you're going backwards, it makes something like flip. And now every time if I'm close to being a little bit stuck in bed, like I'll go five, four, three, two, one, and then I'll be like, okay, here we go, five, four, three, two, and I pop every single time.
Straight into it.
Yeah,
It's like
dude.
it's like the cold water therapy, isn't it? I always say to people, if you are gonna do it, do not do the shower because you back out, one foot in, one foot out. You need to just jump in there. Like I told you in COVID, in that pool every single morning, like 5:30, start taking my kid in there as well. Never once got COVID. Sunrise.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I don't know if you heard that last voice note. I basically at the start of COVID, Wim Hof came on the podcast, and it was just this kind of
I was watching, but I was running out of time to catch up on that, so I didn't.
yeah, he literally because everything started with photography. COVID came, I couldn't shoot people, so it was a sense of what do I do now? Okay, podcast. Had no idea what to do. Started on GarageBand and just press record and all this. Nobody ever questioned it, so I just like, all right. And then out of the blue, I started reaching out to people like yourself, and Wim Hof got back to me, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Wim Hof. Like everybody wants Wim Hof at the minute because he's ice therapy this, and he came on the podcast, and I'll send it to you because he starts off and he's like. Glenn, you're from Australia? I said, yeah. He said, what they're doing to you guys in Australia is fucking atrocious. He was like, because we had it bad. They locked us up. They would not let us go out. They
Oh,
would
seriously? Worse
no
than
no.
here?
2 years. They would not let me people outside their apartments, their houses, anything. Australia got it bad. And
Wow,
I,
that's so crazy, dude. The world didn't know. Like nobody knew that. I didn't know that.
oh, I'll
Like
send
I
you
was
some
never no.
clips. There were police doing rubber bullets at people, old women getting thrown to the floor, people getting tickets for like $200 to $500 for being outside. Ridiculous. Every morning, how many people had died to scare people. And it was a sense of, I started watching things really intricately. And I'm like, if doctors who have given their life for 25 years have quit their profession, there's something going on here. I'm not anti, but I'm like, I'm watching this. So I left it right until. And Wim Hof came on my show and he starts going off on one. And I'm like, this is the time where you can't say anything. And he's going off and he's like, I've done this and I've done this. And he was like, they've injected me scientists with like bacteria. And I've shown through cold water therapy that you can suppress, you can get through it, you can do this. And I listened to him and every day through COVID went down in the pool. Never once, touch wood, got COVID. And it's what, 5 years later now? 6 years later? Never once, none of my family.
Oh my God, amazing. I
So
never,
listen to
I
him.
never got it either, dude. It's like crazy. Me and my daughter were the only ones.
Yeah, it was just madness. And he came on it, and I was just like, holy shit, this is Wim Hof. And he's telling me to do this and not to do that. I'm like, I'm going to bloody listen.
Was the pool cold that you're in? Is
Yeah,
it
it's
like,
like first thing in the morning in Sydney.
yeah,
Like Australia's, it's not always hot.
is it outside the pool?
Yeah, outside.
Oh shit. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, I've
So I'm
been there.
like, yeah. But one thing I wanted to bring up with you there was, did you ever, because as guys, this is what I love about these conversations, because you're somebody who's continued to have an incredible career and you're open and so transparent with another male on camera talking about this stuff. Did you
Yeah.
at the time, because when I went through struggles and a lot more, we tend to keep it hidden. Did you open up to any buddies or did you?
Yeah, I opened up to a group that I was kind of involved in. And it was like we were on a Zoom and it was like a men's group and um but it was, and I would tell them all the time, and they were like, yeah, it was a weekly meeting, just to kind of like and trying to be better and be open and realize you got to talk about this stuff, whatever you're going through, whatever it is, whether it's, you know, drinking or your relationship, or you know, you got to talk to like some dudes. And so I would talk to them and they would just see like no progress. And they were like, man, I hope you snap out of it soon. And I've just I felt like a broken record going into the meeting every time. Like, cause you know, dudes were overcoming stuff and I was just not, but I was telling them openly. And then I wouldn't tell really, I told like one or two buddies outside of that meeting kind of, they knew, like one couple of my friends like knew how bad I was, and they tried like, you know, they tried to just give me pep talks, and I'm like, dude, you just don't. It's not something you can. It's the weirdest thing because you cannot like talk yourself out of it. You cannot read something to get out. Like this, you can't take something to get out of it. It's like experiential. Like you've got to do something that your body responds to. And everything I described, my body responded to, my body, mind, and spirit. And it was like, you know, that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper when he takes that pill and he's like, it was like that all of a sudden. Like I was like, bang. It was like just a giant epiphany. And then when I would stick to it wherever I was, I'd be like searching out like ice plunge or anywhere I go. Like driving people crazy.
But
But
you
I knew it was
know,
like something it worked, and I think there's there's something to be said about that, and I think it's more I see it now in a lot of pro athletes, a lot of like the NFL guys here in the U.S., the football players, athletes across the board seem much more open, to be talking about like to really talk about their mental health struggles. Whereas before it was taboo, it was just like a sign of weakness. And meanwhile, like when you really unveil everything, you realize, and that's one thing about this men's group. I was like, initially, like you kind of think your problems are really unique to yourself. Like I'm the only one thinking along these patterns. I'm the only one who's suffering like this. And then you go into a group like that and you're like, well, there's 10 other guys who are thinking, everybody's thinking the same thing. Everybody's like tortured or they're hurting in some way that they're trying to get past or heal from or trauma, whatever it is. And when you realize you're not unique in your problems, there's a giant weight that gets lifted. And so that's, I think, is a critical part of mental health. I think, I don't know if you watch the UFC, but did you ever see like Patty Pimbleton, not his last name, the guy from Ireland when his mate
yes. When he did
and
the speech,
yeah, he gave a speech and he was like, I think that was like one of his earlier wins too in UFC, and he took that time to talk about like, I wish he would just talk to someone or talk to me instead. Now I got to go to his gravesite, like there, like talk to someone, like because no matter what, when you shed it on someone, I mean, like, you and me talking about like right now, like, I don't know everything that's happened to you, but I have a feeling you've been through some stuff. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't have this kind of a podcast, but you would start relating and then you realize like everybody's going through something, whether they say it like, when you have the realization that, people walk around and they pretend their life is perfect, especially out here, like, and the ones that seem like they have it more perfect, more together, guaranteed behind closed doors, their world is more fucked up and they're so unhappy inside that you couldn't even like it would make you sick. Like, and meanwhile, like I feel like I don't need much to be happy anymore. Like I great family. I have a daughter who's healthy. She's 13. I'm involved in this dog rescue. I fly dogs out of either natural disasters or off the kill list. That's super rewarding. That helps me a lot. But also just knowing that what I was experiencing, was probably the most difficult thing I've overcome. And when you overcome something like that, true to that spirit, that spiritual leader guy I was talking to, the counselor, it was like all of a sudden I did call him after I felt like I really rebounded. And I was like, man, what you were saying the whole time, even though it didn't work at all, actually, I see that in hindsight because all of a sudden I just had this immense growth as a human being, and it was incredible. Like, so I think I'm like, we label like pain and suffering as like, why me? Why is this happening to me? But I think if you can reframe that and realize, you know what, if I can get through this, there's growth on the other side. So if you have that understanding, like I think if I had to, like now, if I had to go through all that again and I had that understanding and I knew that if I just endured and got through the physical parts, hung in there, I wouldn't have slipped so deep. But you know, it takes what it takes, and I'm glad I did because I learned what I've learned
Yeah.
incredible self like skills. Like I just feel like you know I'm like everything. Like I'm like creatively, even building wise. Like I'm like we leased this house in Malibu because we own one in town, but even though we don't own it, we're just renovating it like nonstop. And I was like, because I want to be productive. Like the more productive I am, the better I feel. Like if we sit down and watch a movie, I'm like, and there's nothing good to watch. I'm like, I'm gonna go take a sauna. Like it's like so. I try and keep moving, and then so like people with even sleep problems, like there's definitely one way to get over sleep problems. Like if you did follow my routine for 2 days, by the time I go to bed, like I used to read every night, like in bed, I'd read my Kindle for like 45 minutes, or if I couldn't sleep, like a couple hours, like I'd be reading. And now because I grind all day or do something all day, I stay on my feet. By the time like I bring my massage gun into bed because my body's all whacked and sore, I like just start massaging it. The thing's like falling on the floor. My wife's like, "You need to shut it off." It's like I've burnt out like two of them because they were just running. But I'm asleep within minutes. Like you know what I mean? And I'm not tired up into the point where I let my body go. Okay, now I'll do some like breath work, like the box breathing when I get in bed. You know, like the SEALs do that to like before they're in a stressed environment. If it's like they have to shoot, you know, to calm themselves down, and that stuff works. Like trying to deregulate before bed. I don't want. I used to watch like NFL. I used to watch football all the time. Like a huge like New England Patriots fan, but then you know Tom Brady left and they weren't that good. And like last fall, I don't think I watched one full game. I was just like I just was like doing stuff. I'd go surfing. I'd go do an ocean swim. I'd take my dog to the beach. And by taking action instead of sitting around, you're sending signals subconsciously to your entire your brain, your body and your spirit. Like everything is receiving a signal that okay, we're moving forward no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's like you're putting distance behind that other experience you had by always taking action. And I think that's something that's critical. Like, you know, if you go to a treatment center, man, you're just sitting around half the time or whatever. Like, if you put people like, you know, put them out in the woods, make them work, and then do some therapy out there or be out in nature. Like,
Mhm.
nature is like, I think, like another thing, like getting direct sunlight is, you know, super. You know, everybody's like, cover up, sunblock. But I think that's bullshit too. It's like, you know, like Laird Hamilton, you know, he is the big wave surfer.
Yeah.
He described it best. He goes, okay, let me, because they asked him about sunscreen, and I do wear sunscreen to an extent, but he's like, if you put sunscreen on a plant, do you think that plant's going to grow? And they're like, no, it's probably going to die. And he's like, exactly. So the plant is receiving life from the sun. It's literally direct life. Why wouldn't I want direct life, like direct sunlight into my body? And a lot of people are kind of on that path. I mean, you got to be careful. It depends on what kind of DNA makeup and skin type, but there's you can get direct sunlight in just small portions, but it does help trigger a better state of mind. You know.
But then you've got to also, and I can take this part out of the podcast so we don't get pulled up on it or anything like that. Like, you can't say anything these days, mate.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Thank you.
but it's like the cavemen, the cave women. Long before there was all these substances and paraffins that we're putting on our body and we're eating and shit like that. And it's like, well, how did they manage? Like they
Yeah,
survived for years and like all these people, there are these people as well. There's a guy lately in Australia, fit as anything, triathlons, ice baths, all this and this. And basically ate right, everything. He had a injury with his knee, or so he thought it was. Now he's got terminal 4 cancer. So he's gone kind of big on social media now, telling his
I think
story.
I've seen what's it? Is he? Yeah, is he? I think I've seen something about him. Yeah,
I did think he got some press over in the US as well because it was like out of the blue, and he ate everything right. He sunscreen, he did this, and I think at times like whether we're storing things in what we've been talking about, you get that dis-ease in your body, that
yeah,
spiritual where you're holding
yeah,
it. So something might be going on with him internally. But
yeah.
I don't know. You said something earlier, and I think that's one of the reasons I made IPC because it was a sense of storytelling. Like
Right.
when I was going through my crap, I didn't want to read anything. And this is a problem with society. They hand you a pamphlet or they hand you a website. Oh, just read that. I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah,
So, like, if you can hear stories from people that we've looked up to or we aspire to be, and that
yes.
leads me to an important question for you, David, that I ask everybody. Out of everything you've gone through, what does being imperfectly perfect mean to you now?
Imperfectly perfect. Um, I think being able to fully let go of your past. Like I used to hang on to, I felt like I felt like I knew I was dehydrated when I tore my Achilles. Like I could feel it, and it was late at night, and wasn't stretching, and so I blamed myself for part of it. Um, and then so I had a lot of just regret, and I would relive the past like it was nobody's business. Like just trying to do something to like change, it was such a like I mean, if people knew what's going on in my head, they would have locked me out for sure. They would have been like, "You're fucking insane, man." But I was just so desperate to like get out of where I was at, and then I was like, "How did this all?" And then I'd go backwards, and like, no matter what you've done, you've got to forgive yourself. Like I think imperfectly perfect is we're all fucked up, guaranteed. We're to some extent we are. We're humans, like we have, and I don't mean fucked up. I mean we all have things like or issues or maybe it's anxieties or things that you were and whatever everybody's got something guaranteed, and when you accept that it's okay to have whatever like whatever I'm experiencing, it's okay. Or if I'm going through a dark time, I know that if I just hang in there, this will pass. And I think being able to really understand that what happened in the past, you cannot change it. I was trying to change the past, man, which was insanity at its finest. Like, it just like, it was like, I was like, oh my God, like, dude, what are you doing in your head? Like, and I look back at it, I'm like, I can't even relate to that version who I was back then. But when you're that desperate to get out of how you're so stuck, man, like, I think, I was willing to do anything. I was trying to like literally create a time machine, like hoping like something would happen, would fly through a cloud if I was in an airplane, and it would be like 2 years prior. You know what I mean? Like craziness. But I think because we all make mistakes, this was whatever a freak, and actually a lot of times I think we look upon our accidents or our failures as like a giant setback where now I look upon, I mean, in 3 years of my life was kind of, I mean, it was not a race, but it was 3 years of my life, that was not pleasant. But I look at it as an absolute blessing. All that suffering and the doctor's appointments and still like, I have some nerve damage in my toe, like, but I don't let it affect me at all. I just move forward. I grind. I stay positive. I like, and appreciate that, life changes on a dime, and that for it changes in an instant for any one of us. You walk out the door, boom. And I think we all have this thought like, oh, I'm going to live to however long, and everything's going to be good. And I have time to feel this way, or I have time to live in the past, or I have time to live with regret and not be nice to my friends or family. But you don't have time because you don't know what's coming. And I think like Jordan Peterson says, like, do you ever follow him? I
Yeah, I
love him.
do.
He's like, you have to like, and David Goggins says this, he's like, there's a storm coming for each and every one of us. And if you're not mentally, spiritually, physically fit, when that storm hits you and life punches you so square in the face, it'll wipe you out. And that's what happened to me. Like I got wiped out by life. I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to navigate what I went through. And now like I train myself to be almost ready for anything, whether it's physical or mental or spiritual. Like I just work every day to try and be better than yesterday, and really let go of what the past, because there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing. And I think that's a lot of people get stuck in that, like I did. And you're spending so much of your time, your valuable time left moving like right now, and you're, instead of healing, you're just going, you're living somewhere that never really existed. Like it might as well not have existed happened. You know what I mean? So I think that's, for me, that's imperfectly perfect.
Cool. And one last question, mate. And it's
Yeah.
kind of funny that you mentioned David Goggins. I went to see him a couple of months ago. He was in Sydney.
No
And
way.
the reason this question comes up is because you was talking about your spiritual journey. You was talking about everything else you've been through. These days, we know with social media, I don't like fluff. So people that are making out this spiritual journey is nice and easy and fluffy, and it's not, clearly. You've been through it. And then when it comes to businesses and I can make you a six, seven figure earner and all this, how long, David, did it take you to become this quote unquote social media overnight success?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that, though?
Because I'm like, these days, everyone on social media, they'd see you on social media and they go, oh,
Yeah.
he's had it, he's always had it. And like David Goggins, he got up and he came in the latter end of this event he was in. And everyone that had been up before, it was clearly a sales pitch. Everyone was just pitching themselves. And he came up and he didn't know what they had said. And you know what David Goggins like? And he was like, for fuck's sake, he was like, these people trying to make out that they're like billionaires and they're doing this and they're doing this. He was like, do you know how long it's taken me? And I took it in this podcast going, how long did it actually and truly take you to become as successful as you have become? Or is it an ongoing thing?
Oh, I think it's ongoing, man. Yeah. But I truly, I mean, I'm 57 years old, man, and I feel like outside of my foot not, going numb quite often. I feel like I'm more in tune with my mind, body, and spirit than I ever have been in my entire life. Like, and I think that's, and I know I'm always, I think there's so much more to go. And, you know, I, I definitely don't, I think, even for people like, I've got asked this about acting, like I have friends who, like, they wouldn't go camping. I'd be like, dude, I'm going camping. We're going up to Yosemite for the weekend or 5 days. He's like, well, and one of my buddies would be like, I'm not going, dude. I might miss something. I'm like, oh my God, really? And then it turned like, you've got to go experience life. Like you've got to do things. It's critical. And then because you always learn something and then you can add it to your toolbox, you know what I mean? Something good or bad, something bad happens, you learn from it. Good. It's a celebration. But I think, if you have an open mind and you're willing to evolve and learn and try and every day become better than you were yesterday, and that's your mantra, and you just don't settle, and like take care of yourself. Like I don't drink, I don't do anything, I don't party, I don't drink, I used to, and I like all that's like I want to be the guy who's just like I walk around, there's nobody even driving around at 4 in the morning, dude. That's crazy. Like,
Just
so you can't be that guy and also be the guy who's out in the bar, and I still have buddies who are like doing that, and I'm like, I don't know how they live like that. It's just
have
it's
you
not
got
my
any
stuff.
neighbors? Have you got neighbors? Because I'm just picturing them like, who's that
Oh, dude,
always
I
up at
think.
4 a.m. laying on the road looking at the stars? Oh,
Oh yeah, I do. And I guarantee, because I've also been in my garage like at 10 at night running a grinder, and like I'm sure they're like, "What is this guy?" I'm probably like that, in that movie, like the movie's like, "Who's the psycho?" The lights are on. There's like a power tool going on. But no, this is an amazing, amazing platform you have, man, and I'd love to help you any way you can.
oh, thank you very much.